I mean, there is one more thing in the workplace environment specifically. It hasn't happened with me, but I'm pretty sure it happens with most of the people out there on the job, on the workplace, and that is known as interrupts. Okay, so I'll explain what
Mm.
interrupts are. In a technological language, when we talk about interrupts, so a computer or a machine is doing some task, and then suddenly the most important priority task comes into the picture, and a machine has to drop that the existing task, and it has to take another task because it's the top priority task. So that is something which is known as interrupt in a technological language. So when these interrupts comes, it suddenly breaks the flow of thoughts in our minds, a flow of something which we are doing, a focus on something which we are doing, and suddenly we have to do something else. And that becomes more difficult to achieve because now this thing is a priority and now previous thing has to wait. So during these times, what happens is we lose focus, we lose motivation as well because we have been working so hard for the previous thing and now we have to work for this thing with the same energy as well. What would you like to say about that?
Yeah, so I would say the first question I would ask someone in response to this is how frequent are these interrupts happening? Is it multiple times a day? Is it once a week?
Well, it's every time. I mean, it's every day. You can say 6 times in a week or maybe 5 times, those who have Saturday, Sundays as holidays.
Okay. So, you know, I would say if there's any degree to which you can control them, or to say, you know, whether this interrupt is technology, like you said, or whether it's a person coming and interrupting you, you would have a little bit more control maybe if it's a person.
Right.
So just using, interrupt as I guess, a little bit of a metaphor. If it is a person, then I would say if you can control part of your day or part of your schedule and say, from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., no interrupts, right? If you do have that flexibility to say it so that you know that the most important thing in your day, you can have that time every day. Or
Right.
maybe it's 2 hours, maybe it's just 30 minutes. And if it is technology, then maybe you can block notifications. Again, if that's an option, if you do have that control. So first I would say, see what you have control over, even if it's a little bit, but if it'll help make that difference when you know you can rely on that time for uninterrupted focus.
Right.
If you don't have control over it and it's just going to be there when it wants to be there and there's nothing you can do, I would say to change your mindset and perspective about these interrupts. So when I think of the word interrupt in general, typically it's something that is an unexpected thing
Hmm.
that presents itself to you.
Yeah.
And so if you know that this happens once a day or 6 times a week, you can begin to expect it to some degree so that you're not as caught off guard when it does happen.
Hmm.
Because the biggest element of being thrown off, or when our focus shifts, is when we have something unexpected pop up. But if you can start to expect it, you can be more prepared to handle the interrupt.
Elena, when you say about being accountable, and it's really really important, and going towards the end. Now let's say in today's world we have a lot and lot of OTTs, okay, a lot and lot of movies on demand, and all these things are just out there, okay. And sometimes what does happen is that, let's say 3 days back when I was writing about my ebook, I thought, I mean, I have like 7 hours today. I mean, I can do that, just 2 hours or maybe 3 hours, and I can go and watch a movie on Netflix or maybe on Amazon Prime. And what I actually did was I did watch a movie, and that was around 3 hours. The worst that could have happened is if I would have started with a series, then I would have completed the entire season, right? So what do you feel that these OTT platforms or maybe even social media plays a role in procrastination, and how can we actually make sure that this doesn't get in a way of the things which we want to do for our development?
Yeah, so it's not the tool or the show or the movie. It's not about the distraction, it's about the person. right? Someone that's looking for ways to be distracted or looking for ways to procrastinate, they're going to find a way to procrastinate, right? You hear some people procrastinate with cleaning. They don't want to do something and they start cleaning, and if they justify by saying, oh, well, I'm still being productive, I need to clean my closet, my kitchen. Right. And so it doesn't really matter how you're procrastinating. I would say more often than not, we lie to ourselves. I'm just going to watch 5 minutes of TikToks. I'm just going to play one round of this video game. I'm just going to watch one episode of the show. Right. And you lie to yourself full well knowing that that time comes up and you're going to just keep going, keep playing, keep watching, keep whatever it is. So I would just say, be honest with yourself. That's really the first step. And if you really want to say, okay, I'll do this for 30 minutes and then I'll do my work, or I'll, read, or whatever the thing is find a way that you can actually stick to that. It's also kind of like this is a little different, but this is what's coming to mind. When you have a big bag of chips or a big bag of food, and instead of portioning some out on the side, you just keep eating out of the bag. So it's like, if you can find controls and constraints to still enjoy the thing, but to make sure you're restricting at a certain point so that you can actually accomplish what you want to, whether it's not eating too much junk food or whether it's not procrastinating your thing, find constraints that will really get you to exhibit and execute on the behaviors and actions that you want to. So I'm not saying to not enjoy it, not do it. It's just, what's going to make you actually stop when you know you need to stop. And that's what's different. Because then sometimes the other thing happens is they say, I'm going to do this work first, or I'm going to do this task first that I've been procrastinating. And then they sit there and they look at their email or they work on something else. So it's like they say they're going to sit there and do the work, but then they maybe do other work, or they sit there and just stare into the sky, or, look around and just start thinking in their own head. So that's no better or worse than if you were to just have watched TV in the first place. So even sometimes sitting down to do the thing you've been procrastinating on doesn't mean that you're actually going to do it. So it just comes down to how can you know yourself so you know what will actually work for you, and to just be honest with yourself about how you're planning your day and planning your time.
After taking some constructive feedbacks from the people I meet, so it somehow is really, really encouraging for me right now to talk about it as well. Like way back when we met the first time, you had told me some of the feedback, and I totally understood that. And that's a kind of self-interpretation which people has to learn. And the second thing which you said about controlling things, which is really relatable, especially in the workplaces or even in the personal life as well, where there are certain times that we are dependable on other people to complete their task so that we can complete our task as well. And during this time, we know that the other person is not doing their work on time, of certain genuine reason, of course, but they haven't done that on time, and it affects your productivity as well, because you were always thinking that that particular thing had to be done during that time, and if it's not done, it's going to affect my productivity, because I'm just thinking and worrying about it, that it's not happened. But instead, if you have some other work during that time, you can complete that work first, so that the other person, when he completes his work, he can give it to you, and then you can start working on that. So yeah, that's what I feel about it. So two great relatable examples which you gave, and I believe that's really something which all of us need to think upon as well. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Going ahead, you mentioned about controlling as well. You mentioned about you invited everyone to this self interpretation technique as well, that writing down and thinking about those qualities which we have. Now let's come to the more technical part as well. Like, I have been in a corporate industry from last many years, and what I have learned is, okay, like, those people who have been in the industry from last 20-25 years, who haven't seen much technology, but recently it's a tech savvy world as well. Like, we are communicating on Zoom, right? So at a certain age, people feel that it's not worth to learn new things, and let's continue the things the way they are, and that's where the learning stops. So the mindset over here, which I'm trying to connect with, is the people who have grew older, they feel that after a certain age they shouldn't be learning anything else, because they feel that they are not capable enough to learn something new after a particular age. So what would you like to say about that?
Yeah, so I think here a couple things. Productivity, as I just kind of implied, is about much more than using technical tools or software to be productive. Productivity is a lot about your mindset, your strategy, your approach, because you could give someone the greatest tool or the greatest software, but if they don't know how to use it or don't know how to use it right, it's not going to help them be productive. So it's really more about the person than the tool or the technique. And when we think about productivity a lot, we think about developing productive behaviors. So we think of productivity typically not as just a one-time event, or today I'm going to be productive and tomorrow I'm not. We think about how can we set ourselves up to be productive long term. And so I'll give you an example. Sometimes when I use Excel, I don't use Excel a whole lot. I use it for very basic functions like finding a sum, but I don't really use advanced functions in Excel. So if there's one day where I have a long list of things in Excel and I need to do a minorly advanced formula, it might just be more productive for me to do it manually than to look up what the correct formula is to do it automatically. Because if I know that I only need to do this thing once every 6 months or once every year, I'm probably better off just doing it manually in the moment. Whereas if I know this is something I'm going to have to do every week or every other week, then it's going to be worth my time to pause and figure out how to do it the automated way or find the correct formula. So, for people that are, if you're saying this exclusively about people that are older, they may say, well, if I was going to have this job for another year or another 5 years, then it may be worth it for me to learn these new skills or do these new things. But if they believe the learning curve is going to take longer than they will be employed, or it's going to take them longer to learn it than the time they'll spend actually doing the task, they may have that same mentality that I just shared of it's just going to be easier in the long run for me to do it manually. I'm not saying that's always true, and it's not always the best or the most productive line of thinking. I think for a lot of people, though, especially those that are older, they justify it by saying, well, the amount of time I realistically have still in the workforce, I don't care enough, or it's going to take me too much time to learn it. And I think that's a big limiting belief that a lot of them probably do have, is the perception of the length of time it takes to learn something new versus the value it's going to bring them. So the opportunity cost. They tend to think there's a high opportunity cost when really it's, I think in a lot of cases, a lot lower. And that doesn't just apply to older people in the workforce, that applies to a lot of people about a lot of things. The perception of the opportunity cost is just totally out of proportion. And then people just disqualify themselves or disqualify the opportunity because of that perception without really even thinking about it or looking into it at all.
When you try, okay, now there is a different scenario over here, that you are always trying to be productive. And nowadays in corporate, there is this mindset as well for people that if you work more, you are going to get more work. And sometimes this is happening as well, okay, that if you work more, you are going to get more work. Or, if you complete your work on time, you're going to get more work. What would you like to say about this mindset? And like, is it a truth? Like, personally, what I believe is, it's a 50-50 scenario, but still I would like to know your opinion on this as well.
Yeah, I would say that this really comes down to the culture of the organization. Cultures that are very go, 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 very numbers driven, very, very performance driven, that would more likely be a place where that would be the truth. Companies with a culture or with a work structure where it's more flexible and they're not wanting to see that you're online the entire day, where you can maybe take some breaks and they just want you to get your work done, but they're not going to micromanage you. Those would be the businesses or the organizations that I would say they just want you to do a good job at what you're assigned. And if you should get more work, then it should be a promotion. Or at least if you get more long-term permanent work, it would be a promotion, other than, oh, you're just sitting around, let's give you some more stuff. So yeah, it can happen. It really just comes down to the culture.
Let's say if a guy, the school kids over here, okay, during their exams, they are busy creating a video for Instagram reel. Okay. So, and other than that, there are many other people who are getting influenced like that to become the influencer or to become a celebrity figure on Instagram. And nowadays they have distributing blue ticks as well for some reason. So what would you like to suggest to all those people who are getting influenced into becoming something that they are not, and in the process they are forgetting about what are those things which they need to do in their regular lives?
Well, I would say what are the things that they should be doing, and how do you know they should be doing them,
Yeah, for example, as I mentioned that
or how do you know they're not doing them?
yes, so that's a very good point. So I did encounter two or three kids. Okay, they didn't pass the examination. Okay, and they have like these long hairs and everything that a normal Instagram reeler would have. I mean that's also fine. But when I asked them like, dude, what happened? Like why aren't you studying? Because you just got 30 marks out of 100, and which is not going to secure your future. And I have been a teacher as well. I have been I take classes on C programming, Java programming, and everything for school students as well as for college students. And when I ask them that why aren't you interested in this, because these are some college degrees which you need to have, especially in India, because without a degree in India you are not going to get a good job. Okay, and this thing which you are doing, it does not guarantee success, so at least study for the sake of having a backup. Okay, and then what they say is that during these times, during the exam, they were busy creating Instagram reels, and they have like 1500 followers, and they always have to be on Instagram live, and they always like every day they have to create one reel. So this is how I found out that students who should be studying, okay, at that age, okay, at the age where their parents have invested money as well, and personally they were interested in those subjects, but just because they got influenced by someone, and now they just want to change that field, and which is fine, but at the same time they are not having the backup of creating a career for themselves.
Yeah, so what's coming to mind is history repeats itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, TikTok or Reels is the context, but 10 or 20 or 30 years ago, what were the kids doing back then that was distracting? Maybe it was a supermodel, maybe it was a movie star, maybe it was a singer.
Hmm.
There's always, maybe it was an astronaut and I want to go to the moon, and that's a distraction for them.
Yeah.
So I believe that we as society, as people, have always faced the same problems. It's just as our world evolves, the problems look different. But at the end of the day, we're still the same humans. We still have the same core needs. We still have the same, human error. We still have the same dopamine chase, right? That those things that we seek out and how our brains work. And, I think that's why when you look at content, for lack of a better word, from Plato and Aristotle and Socrates, and all of these things that they used to say still hold true and are still very relatable, because as a species, I think, and how we operate, we're very similar. It's just we've become advanced, so our problems show up in more advanced ways. So I don't think this is a new problem that kids are distracted, or anybody's distracted from doing what they need to be doing, like studying and passing school. It's just, how do we continue to make them believe and demonstrate to them that school is what's more important, or their future is what's more important than these other distractions that they're facing?
Wonderfully said. And what about the distractions, okay, which leads to overthinking? Okay, because what happens is sometimes when we look at a particular person on Instagram, we tend to think that, oh my God, how successful he or she is. At this age, I haven't done anything, but he or she has done some great things. And what is she doing? Like, she's just creating 30-second, 1 minute reel or a TikTok video, and I haven't done anything in my life. And then there is an overthinking process. What if I want to do that? But that again is an overthinking and without any action. So what would you suggest them as far as overthinking is concerned, where they have a feeling of less self-worth?
Yeah, that's a deeper rooted issue. And studies have shown that there are more people experiencing that today, again, than there were 10, 15 years ago. So I'm not trying to say that social media hasn't created more problems or hasn't had a bigger influence on us. There's definitely more people that are experiencing those negative thoughts and feelings. So I do want to acknowledge that. As far as what can they do about it, that kind of differs by age and maturity level and ability to intellectually think and be introspective. So I would say for adults, good questions to ask yourself might be, what am I hoping to find, or what am I hoping to get out of escaping my reality through using social media? I would start there, or lean into maybe why do I not want to, or rather than saying why, it's better to say for what reason. For what reason am I seeking distractions, or for what reason am I resisting being productive? And for kids or for students, I would maybe ask yourself, what is it about this person or these people or this group or this thing that I hope to embody, or that I look up to, or that I admire? And then look at yourself and look at how you already do have some of those qualities, or how you can maybe build upon some traits that you already have to grow into those qualities. And of course, you want to focus on the positive qualities that somebody has, not the negative qualities somebody has. So really, just to any degree that you can get to a deeper reasoning for why you're drawn to that thing, whether it's out of escapism or whether it's out of admiring it.